Since time immemorial, humanity has carried an obscure burden, the inherent capacity for cruelty. History is replete with dark episodes that reveal a disturbing inclination toward selfishness and coldness, often without any apparent gain. John Stuart Mill once observed that for evil to triumph, it is enough for good people to do nothing. In major moral disasters, a minority often commits the atrocity, but such a minority is frequently empowered by the majority's apathy. But why do so many choose silence in the face of injustice? Tolstoy suggests that most of us have a basic understanding of what is right and wrong. We live our lives guided by a common sense of morality without delving into complex philosophical dilemmas. But what if this perception of good and evil is superficial? Wouldn't that be a perfect feast for darker forces like those described by Screwtape in C.S. Lewis's The Screwtape Letters? Lewis presents us with a revealing narrative about the corruption of everyday goodness. The demon Screwtape instructs his apprentice Wormwood to steer humans away from goodness, focusing not on immediate corruption, but on the slow erosion of daily moral value. His strategy is simple yet effective. Instill the idea that ethical and spiritual concerns are impractical and unimportant. Thus, insignificant distractions like ethics and morality are sidelined, making the human focus only on the daily trivialities. The great irony is that we often see ourselves as principled individuals ready to defend justice and goodness. Yet there are countless times when we allow ourselves to be swayed by momentary emotions, forgetting our own moral code. This dissonance, as Lewis argues, is like an open invitation for malevolent forces to intrude upon our lives, pushing us further towards indifference and away from conscious kindness. It's intriguing to consider how apathy can root itself in our daily lives. Small ethical transgressions often go unnoticed. Consider the times when we choose to ignore a plea for help, or fail to rectify a minor injustice out of convenience or laziness. These are the spaces where indifference can flourish, feeding a cycle of moral neglect. An interesting phenomenon observed in psychological studies is the bystander effect, which describes how the presence of others discourages an individual from intervening in an emergency. This serves as a powerful model to understand how collective inaction can allow cruelty to thrive. In this sense, passivity is not just an individual moral failing, but a reflection of how we allow ourselves to be shaped by our environment and social norms. Social influence also plays a fundamental role in this descent. We surround ourselves with people we admire, often accepting their morally dubious ideas without reflection. We do not wish to be seen as outsiders, so we adjust our perspectives to conveniently align. Thus, the mind is split, praying at church while dismissing one's beliefs during a social dinner in profound hypocrisy. A relevant concept here is cognitive dissonance, which describes the discomfort we feel when holding two conflicting beliefs or attitudes. To reduce this dissonance, we are prone to adjust our beliefs or actions, often ensuring that the path of least resistance is taken. Social conformity can thus lead to a gradual erosion of values, making previously unacceptable actions an acceptable norm. This detachment from values is not sudden, it is gradual. Actions increasingly guided by convenience rather than righteousness. Over time, the fine line between kindness and cruelty fades, allowing Machiavellianism to take hold. Ironically, sometimes being in good company does not mean being in good morals. Influences can corrode the values we should uphold. Lewis highlights that morality is not only about grand feats or apparent errors, but also about the small decisions we make daily. It's about everyday evil, the cruelty anyone can practice unwittingly. These small failures, when accumulated, can have consequences as dire as grand atrocities. The fantasies we cultivate about ourselves can be dangerous traps. Frequently, we immerse ourselves in illusions of our own goodness, imagining future heroic gestures. We procrastinate moral responsibilities, believing that one day we will do the right thing. Meanwhile, in the present, we fail to act, nourishing a life of fantasies instead of concrete moral reality. In Lewis's book, Screwtape points out how these fantasies can be detrimental, as they keep humans away from true self-reflection. Instead of confronting the reality of their actions and their moral consequences, individuals get lost in a world of what-ifs, where they will always have the chance to be a hero in the future, so long as they delay immediate responsibilities. But there is hope, the epiphany, the awakening of conscience. Becoming aware of one's imperfections should not lead to despair, but rather to action. This awareness is power, the ability to resist the dark impulses of everyday life. Recognizing that the struggle between good and evil is constant and takes place within us daily is the first step towards redemption. This process begins with honest self-reflection, dismantling the comforting fantasies we construct about our own goodness, and confronting the inconvenient truths of our daily actions. Reflecting on the works of thinkers like Carl Jung reminds us that acknowledging the duality within ourselves is vital. Jung asserted that by embracing our shadow, the darker side of our psyche, we become capable of integrating it and redirecting that energy constructively. This acceptance and self-knowledge are fundamental steps to achieving a morally conscious life. At its core, the transcendent message of Lewis is that we must strive to choose good actively, even when succumbing to moral convenience or indifference seems easier. This choice is not a single event, but a series of daily decisions that gradually shape our character and our impact on the world. Moral action manifests not in grand gestures, but in everyday acts of kindness and respect. Whether offering a used transit ticket to someone who needs it, or providing a listening ear to someone in distress, it is these compassionate actions that propel change. Lewis's legacy in his letters and writings lies in the power of his observations on the complex fabric of human morality. He invites us not only to recognize the duality within ourselves, but also to take responsibility for the choices we make. By doing so, we can redefine our relationship with others and, more importantly, with ourselves. The line between good and evil, as Lewis underscores, is not a distant abstraction, but a practical reality we face every day. The responsibility to be aware of this line and to act intentionally makes us not only better in a moral sense, but also more competent in living our lives with authenticity and integrity. We are not merely puppets of circumstances. Even when faced with hostile environments or people who try to influence us negatively, we have the power to resist. Awareness of these dynamics and the subsequent responsibility that comes with it arm us against the tendencies that might lead us down dark paths. Lewis reminded us that the struggle between the extremes of our nature is constant and requires vigilance. However, through acceptance of our capacity for both good and evil, we can begin a journey of personal transformation. Integrating these internal polarities empowers us to make choices more aligned with our true nature, as expressed by thinkers like Carl Jung. In closing this reflection, it is essential to recognize that accepting our internal duality, as discussed by Lewis, is only the starting point. True transformation comes from continual and conscious action. With each daily decision, no matter how small, we shape our character and contribute to the social fabric around us. It is worth remembering that goodness does not need to be grandiose to be meaningful. In fact, it is the small choices like showing kindness in daily interactions or choosing integrity in moments of temptation that accumulate real transformative weight. Our actions today shape not only who we are, but also provide an example for those around us. By choosing good, we not only resist darkness, but also illuminate the path for others. If you found value in this video, I invite you to subscribe to our channel and share your experiences in the comments. How do you choose kindness in your daily life? What small acts of kindness have you found transformative? Let's build a supportive community where positive actions are celebrated and become a source of collective inspiration. Until the next video, remember, the power to choose good is always in your hands.